Day after day, people come into my practice absolutely certain they're doing everything right. They walk consistently, half an hour, sometimes longer, and yet they show up complaining of knee pain, persistent fatigue, numbness running down their legs, and a general sense that they're deteriorating rather than improving. The first question I pose is always identical. How exactly are you walking? And that's where things get revealing. Because the issue is almost never that people aren't walking enough. The issue is that they're walking incorrectly. And incorrect walking isn't simply wasted effort. It actively grinds down your joints, undermines your posture, overtaxes your cardiovascular system, and drives chronic inflammation deep into your tissues. I encounter this pattern over and over again. Subscribe and tap that like button right now. What you're about to learn is something no one will mention at your next doctor's visit. Help Dr. Dan Carter get to 100,000 subscribers. Every single one matters. So let's begin with the fundamentals. Why is walking after 50 not merely a pleasant pastime, but a genuine medical imperative? Because past 50, your body initiates an entire chain of physiological shifts. They're predictable, they're quantifiable, and you cannot afford to dismiss them. The first shift, muscle tissue begins to vanish. The process has a clinical name, sarcopenia. It refers to the progressive, age-driven erosion of muscle. Past 50, you shed roughly 1 to 2% of your total muscle mass each year. On paper, that sounds manageable, but stretch it across a decade, and you're looking at a 15 to 20% total loss. And muscle isn't just about power. Muscle braces your joints. Muscle governs your blood sugar, the concentration of glucose flowing through your bloodstream. Muscle keeps your frame upright. Muscle provides the balance that keeps you steady on your feet. Lose enough of it, and everything that depends on it begins to unravel. The second shift, your joints grow rigid. Cartilage, the slick, cushioning tissue capping the ends of your bones, lacks its own blood supply. It draws nourishment exclusively from movement. When you load a joint and put it through its range of motion, synovial fluid, the slippery liquid housed within the joint capsule, is pressed into the cartilage, delivering the nutrients it requires to remain healthy. Without consistent movement, cartilage essentially starves, it thins, it loses its resilience. Eventually, it starts to degrade. That degradation is what medicine calls osteoarthritis, and it's not preordained, but you can absolutely hasten it through the wrong habits. The third shift, your metabolism decelerates. Your basal metabolic rate, the calorie count your body expends just to sustain itself at rest, falls by approximately 2 to 3% with each passing decade after 50. That means the very same lifestyle that held your weight steady at 30 will cause you to put on pounds at 55. Not because you altered anything, because your body altered. The fourth shift, circulation becomes less effective. Your blood vessel walls progressively forfeit their elasticity. Your heart pumps with marginally less force. Peripheral circulation, the delivery of blood to the legs, the feet, the smallest vessels, weakens. This is precisely why so many people past 50 notice chilly feet, nighttime leg cramps, and a heavy, worn-out sensation in their lower legs by day's end. And here's the essential takeaway. Walking engages all 4 of those systems simultaneously. It activates muscle. It feeds cartilage through the mechanics of motion. It revs up metabolism. It enhances circulation. Numerous studies confirm that people who walk on a regular basis experience significantly lower rates of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, osteoporosis, and cognitive deterioration. But, and this is the part no one shares with you, all of that only holds true when you walk properly. Walk the wrong way, and you don't simply receive a diminished benefit. You acquire a new problem stacked on top of the existing ones. Let's examine every major error I encounter, beginning with the first. Mistake 1. Launching into full speed from the very first step. This is quite possibly the single most prevalent mistake I see across every age bracket and every fitness level. People step outside and instantly lock into their top pace. It seems logical enough. Why squander time on a warm-up when you could just get moving? But your body isn't an engine. You don't turn a key and have every system operating at peak capacity. Your body requires time to shift from stillness to motion, and that transition cannot be bypassed without repercussions. Here's what actually unfolds inside you when you start too aggressively. First, your muscles are cold. The cooler the muscle fibers, the less pliable they are. Reduced pliability translates to a higher probability of microtears, minuscule, microscopic rips in the muscle tissue that individually produce no symptoms, but accumulate over time and generate chronic pain conditions. Second, your joints haven't yet been lubricated. Synovial fluid, the protective liquid within your joints, settles in certain pockets of the joint cavity while you rest. To distribute itself uniformly across the entire joint surface and form a protective barrier between cartilage surfaces, it needs several minutes of slow, progressive movement. Launch at full speed, and your cartilage is operating without lubrication. Third, your cardiovascular system hasn't adjusted. The heart doesn't respond well to abrupt demands. When intensity escalates too suddenly, heart rate leaps and blood pressure surges more sharply than necessary. Past 50, when your vessels are already less supple, that sudden spike places undue strain on the vessel walls. The remedy costs you 0 additional time. Dedicate the opening 3 to 5 minutes of every single walk to moving slowly, intentionally slowly, almost leisurely. That's your warm-up. It's not reserved for athletes. It's for every person who wants to walk without generating pain. After 5 minutes at a gentle pace, your joints are coated, your muscles are warm, and your heart has found a working cadence. Now you can accelerate. Mistake 2. Walking with faulty posture. Step outside and observe people walking. The majority are pitched forward, head thrust out ahead of the body, shoulders curled down and inward, gaze fixed on the pavement a few feet ahead. This isn't merely unappealing. It's a biomechanical disaster for your spine and your breathing apparatus. Let me break down the mechanics. An adult human head weighs roughly 11 pounds. When it sits directly atop the spine in its neutral alignment, the neck muscles bear exactly that load. But the moment the head drifts forward by just 1 to 1.5 inches, the burden on the cervical spine, the neck segment of your vertebral column, roughly triples. At 2 inches of forward displacement, the load multiplies 4 to 5 times over. Instead of supporting 11 pounds, your neck and upper back muscles are now sustaining 45 to 55 pounds continuously. Maintain that posture for 20 or 30 minutes of walking, and you breed chronic muscular tension across the neck, the shoulders, and the base of the skull. This is why so many people return from a walk with a stiff, aching neck. It isn't a chill in the air, it isn't the march of time, it's mechanics. The second blow lands on your respiratory system. When your chest is compressed and your shoulders are rolled forward, your diaphragm, the principal breathing muscle, a dome-shaped structure sitting beneath the lungs, cannot fully descend. Your lungs cannot fully inflate. You breathe shallowly, using only the uppermost portion of your chest. Your body takes in less oxygen than it should. Less oxygen translates to less fuel for your muscles and your brain. You walk for 30 minutes and feel as though you walked for an hour. People attribute this to aging or poor conditioning. The true offender is posture. There's a third consequence that virtually no one discusses. Defective walking posture disrupts the entire biomechanical chain. Head pitched forward, the lower back compensates by arching excessively. The pelvis tilts. The knees begin tracking at the wrong angle. The stress on your knee and hip joints climbs, not because you're old, but because of one specific, correctable mechanical fault. How to correct it? Envision a fine thread attached to the crown of your head, drawing you gently upward. This doesn't mean straining or forcing yourself rigid. It simply means allowing your spine to lengthen and align naturally. Shoulders relaxed, eased slightly backward. Not a parade ground stance, just your natural anatomical resting position. Eyes trained on the horizon, not on the sidewalk. Chin level with the ground, chest open and broad. In this alignment, your lungs operate at full capacity. Your neck carries no surplus load, and your spine distributes weight exactly as it was engineered to. Mistake 3. Wearing the wrong footwear. This is the detail people pay the least attention to. Shoes are the last consideration when selecting a route or deciding how far to go. That's a serious oversight, because for your joints, nothing matters more than what sits between your foot and the ground. Two developments that accompany aging make footwear selection critically important. First, the fat pads on your soles grow thinner. These served as your body's built-in shock absorbers. They cushioned the blow each time your heel struck the ground. Now that natural padding has diminished. Your shoes must compensate. If they don't, every ground impact transmits straight up the chain: ankle, knee, hip, lower back. Second, the muscles and ligaments within the foot weaken over time. The arch can begin to sag. This condition is called acquired flat foot. A flattened arch alters the entire loading angle on the knee, shifts the axis of the hip joint, and amplifies spinal stress. Well-constructed shoes with adequate arch support can meaningfully slow that progression. What to look for in a walking shoe? First, sufficient cushioning in both the heel and the forefoot. The sole must be yielding enough to absorb impact, but not so soft that your foot collapses without structural support. Second, arch support. This doesn't require a rigid insole. It means the interior contour of the shoe mirrors the natural anatomy of your foot and prevents the arch from caving inward. Third, a flexible sole in the front section. During walking, your foot needs to bend at the ball, the broad front portion. If the entire sole is stiff, it interrupts the natural heel-to-toe rolling motion and overburdens the calf muscles and the Achilles tendon, the thick tendon running up the back of your ankle. One additional point about shoes: deterioration. Many people are walking in athletic shoes they purchased 2 or 3 years ago. The exterior may appear perfectly serviceable, but the cushioning compounds in the midsole, the layer sandwiched between the outer rubber and the inner lining, lose their shock-dampening properties long before the shoe shows visible wear. If you walk regularly, swap out your walking shoes roughly once a year. That isn't a sales pitch, that's osteoarthritis prevention. Mistake 4. Walking infrequently but covering large distances when you do. This is an extraordinarily common pattern. People are occupied during the work week, so they take a single extended walk on the weekend, an hour, sometimes 2. They return home tired, feel righteous, and consider their weekly exercise obligation fulfilled. From a physiological perspective, this approach is fundamentally misguided. Your body doesn't respond to isolated bursts of effort. It responds to repeated, consistent stimuli. Each time you walk, your body receives a signal. Physical activity is the norm. In reaction to that signal, your heart gradually grows more efficient, your vessels adapt, your muscles fortify, your metabolism stays engaged. This is known as training adaptation, and it only materializes with repeated, regular input. One walk per week is too faint a signal. The body never adapts. The payoff remains negligible. Worse still, a single prolonged walk following several days of complete inactivity functions as a stress event for unprepared muscles. They're cold, unadapted, and the following day they ache. People arrive at the conclusion, walking isn't for me, my joints must be fragile. That's the wrong takeaway. The joints are most likely fine. The loading pattern is at fault. The evidence base is unambiguous on this point. 20 to 30 minutes of walking on most days of the week constitutes the minimum effective dose for your cardiovascular system. That's the regimen demonstrated to lower your risk of heart attack, stroke, and type 2 diabetes. Not one marathon Sunday walk, but 5 to 6 shorter sessions per week. Your body adapts to what recurs, exclusively to what recurs. If your current habit is walking once weekly, begin with 3 times. Not necessarily 20 minutes, even 10 will suffice at first. After a fortnight, tack on 5 more minutes. Gradual progression here isn't weakness. It's intelligent planning. Mistake 5. Keeping your arms frozen at your sides. Most people either hold their arms rigid alongside their body, let them dangle limply, or bury them in their pockets. It feels comfortable. In truth, it strips away a substantial portion of walking's benefits and undermines your movement mechanics. Here's why. Walking isn't exclusively a lower body activity. It's a whole body, cross-patterned movement. When your left leg advances, your right arm swings forward, and the reverse. This pattern, called cross-coordination, is hardwired into your nervous system. It distributes the workload across your spine symmetrically and diminishes the rotational force on your torso with every stride. When your arms don't participate, your spine must absorb that asymmetry by over-rotating through the lumbar region. For anyone already dealing with lower back problems, this can provoke pain. Second consideration, arm swing recruits the muscles of the shoulders, chest, and upper back. This means a walk with proper arm movement engages considerably more total muscle mass than one with immobile arms. Greater muscle activation means higher calorie burn, improved circulation, a more active metabolism. The identical distance covered with active arm swing produces a stronger physiological response. Third consideration: arm movement establishes rhythm and sharpens coordination. This grows particularly important past 50 as coordination gradually wanes. A steady, rhythmic arm swing helps maintain a consistent stride length and lowers the risk of losing balance. Proper technique: bend your elbows to roughly a 90-degree angle. Let them swing forward and backward in a natural cadence, opposite to your leg movement. You don't need the exaggerated pumping of competitive race walkers. Just stop clamping your arms to your torso. After a few outings, the difference will be palpable. Walking becomes smoother and more rhythmic almost immediately. Mistake 6. Walking with your phone in your hand. 2 decades ago, this error didn't exist. Today, it's among the most ubiquitous things I observe. People walk while staring at a screen, reading messages, scrolling through a feed, and convince themselves they're looking after their health. They're not. Begin with posture. When you gaze at a phone held in front of you, or worse, down by your hip, your head angles downward. We've already established what that inflicts on the cervical spine. The load on your neck muscles swells 3 to 5 times over. Your shoulders curl forward. Your chest collapses. Breathing turns shallow. Every issue we discussed regarding poor posture is now not just present, but actively reinforced and magnified. Because with a phone, your head drops lower than it would with routine slouching. Now factor in safety. Past 50, the vestibular system, the balance and spatial orientation apparatus in your inner ear, begins to function with slightly reduced precision. Proprioception, your body's innate awareness of its own position and motion in space, also starts to diminish. This is a normal, gradual feature of aging. What it means in practice is that your brain increasingly depends on visual data to maintain equilibrium while walking. When your eyes are trained on a screen instead of the path ahead, your brain is denied its most vital source of spatial information. You stop registering uneven pavement, curbs, steps, slick surfaces, sudden changes in elevation. The probability of a fall rises markedly. A fall past 50 isn't merely a matter of picking yourself up, dusting off, and carrying on. It frequently means a fractured wrist, cracked ribs, or, most gravely, a broken hip. A hip fracture in someone past 60 entails prolonged immobility, surgical intervention, and an extended rehabilitation journey. The remedy couldn't be simpler. Slide the phone into your pocket. And one more consideration. Walking isn't purely a physical exercise. It's a neurological one. When you walk while attending to the road, the sensations coursing through your body, your breath, your environment, you're actively honing attention, coordination, and spatial perception. That's a genuine, documented benefit for your brain. When you stare at your phone, that benefit evaporates. Your legs are in motion, but your mind is elsewhere. Let a walk be a walk. Mistake 7. Neglecting recovery after your walk. Nobody addresses this. Not in a clinic, not in a fitness facility. The prevailing assumption is that walking is such a mild activity that no recovery whatsoever is needed. That assumption is mistaken. Start with hydration. Muscle tissue is 70 to 75% water. Every biochemical process within muscle, contraction, relaxation, post-exercise repair, occurs in a water-based environment. Even slight dehydration, a 1 to 2% reduction in your body's fluid reserves, measurably diminishes muscle elasticity, delays recovery, and heightens the risk of cramping. After your walk, drink a glass of water. That isn't marketing from a sports beverage company. That's elementary physiology. Now, regarding stretching, during walking, your muscles work in a shortening mode. They contract over and over. Without stretching afterward, they remain partially shortened once you stop. Over time, this effect accumulates. Muscles grow taut and inflexible. Joint range of motion contracts. A persistent feeling of rigidity sets in. This is most pronounced in the calves, the rear of the thighs, and the lower back. 5 minutes of gentle stretching after every walk prevents this entirely. And about rest days. Many people figure that if walking is beneficial, then more walking must be superior. That's not how adaptation functions. Your body doesn't adapt during the exercise itself. It adapts during recovery. That's when muscle fibers reinforce themselves, when joints remodel in response to the loads placed on them, when the cardiovascular system restructures to meet the new demands. If you never allow your body recovery time, adaptation stalls. 1 to 2 rest days each week isn't idleness. It's the correct protocol. Think of your walk not as a standalone exercise, but as part of an integrated system. Movement, hydration, stretching, rest. Only as a complete system does it yield durable, lasting results. Now, here's a clinical observation that ties all of this together. Every one of these 7 mistakes carries a different level of consequence depending on your age. The harm wrought by poor posture, deteriorated footwear, and neglected recovery is 2 to 3 times more severe past 50 than it is at 30, because the resilience of your joints, blood vessels, and muscles diminishes with time. The very same mistake your body forgave at 30 without a second thought will generate real, tangible symptoms at 55. How old are you? Share it in the comments. I want to understand which age group this material resonates with most strongly, so I can direct future content where you are right now. Now for a clear, practical wrap-up. Here's exactly what to do after watching this. 1. Embrace the slow start rule. The opening 3 to 5 minutes of every walk, slow pace only, no exceptions. This costs you 0 additional time. You're merely beginning at a gentler clip. 2. Assess your posture right now. Stand up, lengthen your spine, draw your head gently upward. Release your shoulders and ease them slightly backward. Hold that position. Commit the sensation to memory. Reproduce it each time you step outside. 3. Pick up your walking shoes and examine the soles. If the wear pattern is uneven, if you've been walking in them consistently for over a year, it's time for a new pair. This ranks among the simplest, highest return investments you can make in your joint health. 4. Abandon the 1 epic walk per week habit. 20 to 30 minutes of walking, 5 to 6 days a week. That's the benchmark. If that feels like too much right now, begin with 3 days. Add 1 day every couple of weeks. Gradual is sustainable. 5. Free your arms. Bend your elbows, soften your shoulders, and allow your arms to swing in their natural rhythm. Extract them from your pockets. 6. The phone goes in your pocket for the duration of the walk. No exceptions. If you want audio accompaniment, music, a podcast, use earbuds. Just keep the screen out of your hands. 7. After every walk, a glass of water and 5 minutes of stretching. 5 minutes. That's all that separates you from chronic muscle tightness. Walking is one of the most accessible, safe, and effective tools available for safeguarding your health past 50. You don't need a gym membership. You don't need expensive gear. You don't need any special preparation. What you need are the right habits and a mindful approach. Small adjustments to how you walk produce real, enduring benefits for your heart, your joints, your brain, and your overall quality of life. No one at a medical practice is going to walk you through all of this. That simply isn't how the system works, and that's precisely why this channel exists. Subscribe to Dr. Dan Carter, leave a like on this video, and help us reach 100,000 subscribers, one informed, healthy individual at a time. I'm Dr. Dan Carter. Look after yourselves. I'll see you in the next one.